Saginaw City Council to order. Please rise for the pledges. For the invocation, we've got from the Sar Shalom Synagogue, Elder Yosef Alva. Welcome, sir. Thank you for coming.
Well, shalom, everyone. As the councilman said, my name is Yosef Alva. I'm a elder at Sar Shalom Synagogue, Zagan, and I'm here subbing on Rabbi Mordecai Griffin's behalf. He is actually en route back now from Israel. So he's been there for 2 weeks, so we're glad that he is actually making his way back home. So on behalf of Rabbi and the entire Sar Shalom Synagogue, we would like to say thank you for this opportunity. Let us pray. Adonai, we first give you thanks and praise for all your daily blessings, those seen and those that are unseen. May we always recognize your sovereignty in all matters involving our daily lives, both as individuals and as a community. Hashem, we ask you for blessings of wisdom, understanding, and counsel to be given to every single member of this city council, that they would make the absolute best decisions for the entire community of Saginaw, Texas. Hashem, we know that there will be times of disagreement and that it is impossible to please every single interest presented to them. May you give them the peace of mind that they did all they could to make sure that all were heard and considered, and that their final decisions will be for the best of all in this community. We pray that their sole purpose is to serve their community, and as long as they desire to serve and have a heart to serve, may they be given the opportunity to do so, and may they always be blessed to have the confidence of those that they serve. To the first responders, firefighters, and police force, Hashem, cover and shield them from every dangerous situation. And may each and every one of the most senior on the force to the newest recruit, all of them return home safely every single day and every single night to their homes and loved ones. Hashem, may you also give them an intuitive sense to know when they are approaching an unusually dangerous situation and to take the most precaution to remain safe. Proverbs 29:2, when the righteous are in power, the people rejoice. Adonai, we make these requests to you in the merit of Messiah Yeshua. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir. All right, item number 3 is the audience participation that's covered on the screen. If there's an agenda item you would wish to speak, please see the city secretary and sign up. Please silence your cell phones, devices, etc., so we can have a quiet meeting. If you need to make a call, please exit the chamber. I would like to welcome folks watching online. I hope there's somebody watching online. If so, please give us any feedback on how the picture and the audio is. I want to get a good experience for the folks watching either the live version or the tape. Moving on, item number 4 is the consent agenda. A is action regarding minutes of February 4th. B, action regarding resolution 2020-05, continued participation with the Atmos City Steering Committee. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Thank you, Valerie. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? There is none. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum, a full house this evening. We are blessed to have the Mayor Pro Tem here tonight. She just had surgery. Appreciate you toughing it out for us. We promise we will move expeditiously to get you home quickly as we can. Item number 5, community involvement presentation. For that, Director of Community and Economic Development, Keith Reinhardt. Keith?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Fun to be here today. There's a lot that goes on in our community, and doesn't always get brought up at City Council meetings, and this is just one of those things that I thought that the public gets to see and see some of the good things that are happening in our city, some of the fun, good things that are happening. We had, as you can see, we had our second annual Polar Bear Plunge at the Aquatic Center. It was a lot of fun. I missed the first one. I was out of town a year ago. But this year, I was glad to be there. Until that morning when I woke up and did my usual routine of waking up early, getting coffee, laying on the couch with the dogs, drinking coffee, watching English Premier League soccer, but this time watching the snow falling outside, and that was kind of a fear. It was 29 degrees at 8 o'clock.
It was
in the morning.
truly a polar plunge.
It was truly a polar plunge. You know, I see these people having fun on TV, and I thought, you know, it sounds like it'd be fun, but in Texas, I just really wasn't expecting. It hadn't snowed in a while, but it did snow that morning. Fortunately, it warmed up to a balmy, I think it was 38 at game time, 38, 41, somewhere in that range. So it was warm. It was nice. It was suntan weather. Sun did come out, which was great. We had great participation by council, Mayor Valerie, Patrick all dove in. We had other council members there. It was really good participation. Gabe, our city manager, dove in. In fact, he gave me some great advice, which was to go down the slide first. And when you come out of the slide, the water is waist deep, and your body just becomes totally numb. So when you're walking around with the wind blowing and going over to where the dump is, you don't feel a thing really because you're so numb. But the purpose of the Polar Bear Plunge was, of course, to have a little bit of fun, but also to raise some money for our animal services. We people accepted donations, gave donations, and we raised about $1,100, which is really nice. And our animals are the ones that benefited from that. There's our illustrious mayor.
There's the mayor.
Just going to go through some slideshows of some photos that we took. Going through the slide there. There's the numbness in the left photo. Pain, severe pain. Why did I do this? Yeah, it was cold. It is. Actually, the bright picture for me wasn't near as bad as I was expecting. The hard part was just sitting there waiting for it to drop. Mm-hmm. Councilmember Patrick Farr, same thing. There's a far right. Like,
It was
oh
cold.
My gosh, this is cold. Our
Gabe.
fearless leader, Gabe. The center photo, I don't know if you can see it very well, it's just priceless. His facial expression is quite priceless. Councilmember Farr and Gabe going through the pain. Our Councilmember Valerie.
Valerie, you were not scantily clad, that's for sure.
Smart wearing the raincoat.
Yeah,
That was
it was.
a good move.
Yeah.
There's our animal services manager, Jose Whelan, in full uniform.
Yeah.
Well, minus the radio, of course. But our whole animal services staff, most of them in uniform, and one of them in I think it was, I don't know what you call it other than a pajamas-looking thing. We'll go with that. Getting dumped on. There I am. All right. A little bit of fun. Daughter.
Yes, Macy.
Mm-hmm.
Brave soul, brave soul. And some of our residents, various residents, decided to participate in it. And we had a few of them just said, "What are y'all doing?" And then we told them, "Yeah."
I do, yeah.
A few more pictures. All in all, it was good times.
It was fun.
It was good times.
We look forward to doing it next year. We're going to continue to just throughout the year, not at necessarily every council meeting, but we'll have just some different, fun things good things that are going on in the community that we just want to let everybody know about.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
I think also, Cindy, you had something you wanted to mention in this?
Yeah, just do a better job of picking the weather next year.
Okay. Moving on. Item number 6 is the It's Time Texas Community Challenge, the 2020 Mayor Pledge.
Isn't this
And-
where you do a video?
Well, we keep talking about it.
Yeah.
We did this last year. We signed up for this. It was not just me. It was the whole city council signed up for this to promote healthy living. Several things we can do. Well, me, but everybody can do to get points, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll sign the pledge again to get the city council involved, get the whole city involved. I can do a video. I think my social media coordinator, my wife, has talked about doing something, so
There you go.
we'll do something. But we're thrilled to do this again, to be part of the HEB program. So I will ask the city council to sign this as well after I sign this, and we'll do a photo of us holding the pledge. I think we did that last year as well. So this is great. And hopefully some citizens will take part in this as well. So did I miss anything? Anybody else want to add? Let's move forward then. Thank y'all. Item number, where's my agenda? We're on item number 7, right? My iPad just froze. All right. Item number 7, consider as an action regarding continuing negotiations with the YMCA. And for this, City Manager Gabe Rayam.
Mayor and Council, this item was requested by 2 council members to, at the advice of the city attorney, to take action on whether to continue talking about a proposal. I think recently it's been rendered kind of a moot point, so the YMCA, in an email which I forwarded to the council, is pursuing a location in Fort Worth. Wouldn't anticipate there'd be city participation with that in mind, so really don't see any further need for discussion.
Yeah, unless anybody has any questions, we will just take no action on this item and move forward. Unless anybody has any questions, concerns.
Not at this time.
All right. Moving forward, item number 8, update on retail market analysis. For that, City Manager Gabe Rayam.
Mayor and Council, I'm happy to welcome back Aaron Farmer from the Retail Coach. If you'll recall, a couple months ago, he updated you about a market analysis study using cell phone data, so he's going to present his findings.
All right, well, Gabe, appreciate the introduction there. Mayor and Council, it's good to be in front of you again. I think I was here probably a couple months ago, maybe a month and a half ago, just talking a little bit about the market analysis, what that entails. So our team has been to the market twice now, really taking a hard look up and down your corridors, north and south, east and west throughout the town, really trying to get an understanding of what are those opportunities from a retail standpoint. So I'm going to run through those, just kind of some of the high points today. I'm going to pull it up on my iPad here also so I can see a little bit better.
Is this picture from our City of Saginaw contest, Keith?
No, it's not. It's actually the artist rendering from Julian Lambert Photography of the artwork.
Because it's an awesome picture.
It
I
is.
really like that.
It is an awesome picture, and that's why I picked it. It really stood out. One of the things that you'll remember when we were talking about the retail market analysis is understanding who is your consumer. We know that people are coming here, that are shopping here, eating here from outside of the community. So in order to do that, in order to understand that, we use mobile location data. So if you have a cell phone, we're able to track where you're going. We're not using that data for anything. We're not selling it to anybody, but we're using it to figure out who's coming here, who's shopping here. So the cell phone analysis, I just want to reiterate this. It's not based on where your billing address is. It's based on where you spend your evenings between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. That's what we look at as your home address. So that just kind of speaks to the quality and just how precise it is knowing where you spend your time. So we ran this on a number of different shopping centers, a number of different retailers and restaurants throughout the community. For today, I'm just going to pull out Walmart and share that with you. Out of all of the retailers and restaurants in this community, Walmart has the largest draw of consumers. You're pulling people from further distances coming from Walmart. So what we did is we looked at 12 months. So going back from January of this year all the way back 12 months to January of 2019, we're able to track who was coming to that store. So good example here, good thing to look at, 318,000 people. 318,000 unique customers walked in the doors of that Walmart. So what was interesting to me and a good thing for this is of those 318,000 unique visitors, they were making 2.9 million visits. So you've got a lot of repeat business. You're a retail hub from that standpoint in that you have multiple consumers coming to that Walmart. What's interesting is if you look on the screen at the bottom, this shows you the visits trend. So it shows you based on the week how many consumers you were looking at, and roughly between 50 and 75,000 consumers on a weekly basis. So it was pretty consistent, though. Right around the Christmas time was your peak. I think that's the 23rd. Around that time, that week, it was your highest number of consumers at the store there, which makes sense with seasonal shopping and those sort of things. But you're pretty even. You're pretty consistent. You know, when we work in a lot of communities, we'll see where it's very seasonal, and maybe it'll be very high in certain months and then it'll drop. You're consistent. Now that's actually a positive thing when we're talking to potential retailers, restaurants, prospects to look at. You're a consistent market. There is no seasonality to it. The next slide here shows us really where your consumers are coming from. And it's a little bit hard to see on the screen, but the darker the red that you see on the screen, that's your highest concentration of consumers. So if I was to zoom into this map, you can start to see that primary trade area, your trade area form, which we're going to look at here in a second. But the red notates those that are coming in. The blue dots on the map are those consumers that really aren't shopping on a regular basis at your Walmart, but maybe they're making a stop. Maybe it's like me. I had to stop and get something on my way into town today. So what we want to pay attention to are the reds, the greens, and the yellows on the map, because that's really what we're looking at there. We're also able to track where consumers are coming from and where they're going. So on the map that you'll see on your screen here, we're able to tell that 58%, give or take, came from their home location and went to Walmart. And then we can tell about 77% went home. So maybe they had groceries to go home with. But we're also able to track kind of where they're going, where they're coming from. I thought it was interesting, but 1.3% of your consumers came from Presidio Junction, which is the shopping center in kind of North Fort Worth, the Alliance area over there. A number of them coming from the high school. Some of them went to the Kroger on Bailey Boswell. So we're actually able to track how consumers move throughout the community. So as y'all are looking to recruit retailers, restaurants, developers, those opportunities, this type of analysis is what those prospects are looking for. They want to know, how do people interact with the community? Where are they coming from? Where are they going? That being said, we can also see what roadways were the highest used. So to get to Walmart or some of these other retail centers we looked at. But again, red is the highest concentration. So coming up, Saginaw Boulevard was number one as far as how people coming from the south and the north got to that Walmart, which makes sense. But you can see also the secondary arteries that are on this map and where they're coming from. So again, as you talk to prospects, as you talk to retailers, restaurants, developers about opportunities, this is the type of information they'll want to see. And I'll tell you, I've been doing this for about 15 years, and I would have killed to have this kind of data 15 years ago. You know, we were using radials and drive times. You know, how many people live within a 10-mile radius of, Saginaw, or how many people live within a 10-minute drive time? This just goes to show you how much the data has evolved and what retailers are using to make their decisions now. Just a couple other slides related to the cell phone analysis, but we can also tell what are the busiest times of day. So I thought this was interesting, but the busiest time of day at that Walmart is really it's kind of split between 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. So right after I get off of work, that's your busiest time at that Walmart. But it's pretty consistent, really from noon until about 8 p.m. or so. You're pretty consistent in hours of the day. But again, data that prospects will want to see. It's just pretty amazing that that's available now. And then lastly, this is broken down by visits by the day of the week. So obviously it makes sense. Saturday is your busiest day. That's when a lot of us do our main shopping. But Saturday and Sunday are the two busiest days. But really, Monday through Friday, it's pretty consistent. Which I thought was also something interesting to look at. Again, when I do a lot of these, a lot of times we'll have a drop. On Monday or Tuesday, it'll be a lot less. But, you're pretty consistent right at that 400,000 number of visits per day throughout the week. So we've run these cell phone analysis on a number of different locations in town, even some of just your smaller restaurants, to get a feel for where are they coming from. So I just wanted to hit on Walmart so you could see that and kind of see the power of that data. What I want to talk to you about now is the retail trade area. So I tell our clients this all the time: forget about your city limits population. When it comes to a retailer, it comes to a developer, they really don't care about the city limits population, what that number is. What they're focused on, who is my customer, where are they coming from, how many of them are there. So you'll see on the map here, this is your primary trade area. This is where roughly 80% of your consumers that are shopping in Saginaw are coming from this area. So extends up north towards Newark, down south, really kind of 820 is the border to the south there. And then the lake is really the border to the west, obviously natural barriers there and those sort of things. And then to the east is really 287 is what your boundary is there. So it's a pretty wide or pretty large trade area. But what I want to hit on and what I wanted to share with you is what those numbers look like. So the retail trade area population for 2020 is 95,471. So, like I said, forget about the city limits population in terms of recruiting retailers and understanding your market. This is what we want to pay attention to. Roughly 95,000 in the retail trade area. Your average household incomes are 111,438. And I will tell you, many of you know we've worked with Saginaw for at least 10 years, off and on, with some data work. That number continues to rise. Your average household income, when we first started working with you, was below 100,000. So you're over 111,000 now, which is, from a retail standpoint, many of the potential retailers, brokers, developers, they kind of look at 100,000 in the average household income as a benchmark. And you've surpassed that. So that's definitely a positive there. And then one other thing I wanted to point out is your median age. It's 33.98. That number also continues to decrease. So as I looked back about 10 years, as you're having younger families move out to this area, more kids and those sort of things, that continues to fall as well, which from a retail perspective is a good thing. Retailers like to see younger populations, and the reason for that is younger people spend their money more often. They're not saving as well as maybe some of the older population. So retailers, developers, as you're looking to recruit prospects, that's a positive. So I wanted to just kind of emphasize that. We literally have hundreds of pages of demographics. This is just pulling out just the high level kind of summary of that. So I'd encourage you to kind of take a look through those demographics. Anything you would want to know about somebody, how many cars they have, what their profession is, what their incomes are. That information is in there, and it's broken down, pretty deeply. So you can take a look at that.
How important is the population number, the trade area population? Is 100,000 a good threshold, or is not, how's that?
So it depends on the retailer. So certain retailers look for certain populations. That's one of the main factors that retailers look at. Historically, 50,000 was that mark. Chili's was one of the first casual sit-down restaurants to kind of expand rapidly throughout the country. And Chili's kind of set that. They said, hey, we're not going to locate in a market unless it has 50,000 population. But then it's continued to rise. So, you see, depending on who the retailer is, there's kind of these benchmarks, 50,000, 75,000, 100,000. Honestly, I'm pretty happy with 95,000. I think from that standpoint, I think there are some opportunities for some prospects that just aren't here yet.
Excuse me, I have
Yes,
a question. So how does this area overlap, the retail trade area, say between us and Lake Worth or Blue Mound or Fort
So
Worth?
there's definitely some overlap. I haven't, to be honest, we haven't determined Lake Worth's retail trade area, but I will tell you there is some overlap. You've got some of your residents are shopping in these areas, and some of their residents are shopping in this. So there is some sort of overlap there. But like I said, about 80 to 90% of your consumers are coming from within this area. A couple more slides for you. One other thing that we looked at was a retail leakage analysis. And you probably have heard of this before, but what a leakage analysis does is it looks at what are those opportunities. So it looks at what is the potential in the retail trade area, and then compares that to what's actually happening. So I got your actual sales from the comptroller's office to get a feel for what are we looking at here. And what I wanted to point out, some of the things that stood out to me, some of your biggest leakage categories are in, for example, clothing. So basically the bottom half of this page, you're leaking about $86 million on a yearly basis that's being spent outside of Saginaw on clothing opportunities. Because think about it. Besides one or two options, there's not many options for clothing here in Saginaw. So people are heading to, Academy for sporting clothes and those sort of things. They're heading to, the mall for other types of clothing. So I wanted to point that out because I think there's an opportunity for clothing, even some of the smaller ones. You have a few kind of clothing stores around the Walmart area, but a lot of that leakage is occurring. That's money that's leaving this trade area and being spent other places. I also wanted to emphasize on this next page here, down at the bottom as well, full-service restaurants. So about 4 or 5 from the bottom, you've got about $73 million that's leaving this community on a yearly basis for casual sit-down restaurants. You've got a couple of great restaurants, casual sit-down restaurants, but your surrounding area has many more, and you've got people leaving there. So those are just a couple of categories that stood out to me. I'd encourage you to kind of take a look at all of these. I mean, any business that's in this town, any retail business, there's a category they fit into. So definitely would recommend you pay attention to that. One last category I'll point out is general merchandise stores. So that would be what Walmart would fit into. And even though you have a Walmart here, you still have about $75 million in leakage in the general merchandise category. What I found was most of that leakage is going to Target. So it's people leaving this community and going to places like Target. So we're able to kind of backtrack it that way and see where people are going. So all of that being said, don't look at leakage as a negative thing. What I would encourage you to do is look at that as an opportunity. Because if you see a leakage in a sector, the way I look at that is there's an opportunity. Hey, we can go recruit a restaurant. Any questions on the leakage analysis before we move forward on that? Okay. I think I've got maybe 2 more slides. So just a couple of observations and recommendations that our team made. From a retail standpoint, Saginaw is close to being built out. Besides a few properties that are available on some of these different corridors, you're just about built out. So one of our recommendations we have for you is to continue to work closely with landowners and developers, really to maximize the retail potential of your sites. Any chance you have to get more retail, it's your city's driven by sales tax, just like most of us are in the state of Texas. Make sure you're working closely with those developers. Gabe and I talked about this, and y'all are already doing that, but continue to work closely with them. When you're working with developers, say, hey, we've got a leakage in clothing. Is there a way to incorporate some clothing into this development? Those sort of things. I also want to emphasize, I talked about you're almost built out from a greenfield or vacant land standpoint here in Saginaw. Focus on redevelopment. One thing that our team noticed is, especially along Saginaw Boulevard, especially to the south and kind of the older area of town, there are some redevelopment opportunities there. Just basically some properties that are not serving their highest and best use, that maybe could locate somewhere else or maybe could be redeveloped. Would encourage you to really take a hard look at that. And then just a few more, but the next few years, in our opinion, are critical for Saginaw from a retail recruitment standpoint. As the development continues to happen around Saginaw, that's going to limit your opportunities here. So you're competing not just with those communities directly around you, but those within a certain distance here in the region. So continue to have a recruitment strategy. Continue to be in front of possible retailers, restaurants, developers, and then focus on identifying prospects that aren't here. So, what are some of those retailers and developers? We looked at some of those sectors, but really focus on those leakage sectors for opportunities. And then, I mentioned this already, but some of the highest leakage sectors are in full-service restaurants and clothing. So, any questions on that? Like I said, the numbers have improved really dramatically from the last time we did this. Always seeing incomes go up, always seeing populations increase, ages lower. Those are the things that these retailers and these restaurants key on. And just wanted to kind of emphasize that to you. This is just like I said, a small, just kind of snapshot of the data we put together. But the key now is taking this data and using it to get it in front of prospects and really, again, to maximize that retail opportunity.
Questions for Aaron?
Have one.
Cindy?
I was looking at this slide about your observations and recommendations. The second to last bullet says focus on identifying retailers and restaurants not indirectly competing communities for recruitment.
Absolutely.
That one intrigued me because the first thing that comes to my mind are independently owned businesses, something that's different, unique, that you won't find in surrounding cities.
Yeah, definitely. So store spacing is incredibly important to retailers and restaurants. So if there's a store located 2 miles down the road, chances are they're not going to locate here. So what we were saying with that point is, let's look for some that maybe are 15 miles down the road, that aren't 2 miles down the road that could locate here and be successful. We're big believers that in order for you to have a strong retail community, you've got to have a healthy mix of local, regional, and national retailers and restaurants. So any strategy you're putting together really needs to focus on all three of those, local, regional, and national. But store spacing is incredibly important, and that's what we were getting at with that point, is identifying some of those. Maybe they have a store in Burleson, or maybe they have a store in Keller, but they don't have one in your directly competing communities. Those would be looked at as prospects.
Is there a certain percentage for the ratio between local, regional, and national that we should consider just because of our position?
Not necessarily. I don't know off the top of my head what I would really say that number is. I mean, it's important to have some national retailers in there just based on the volume that they do, and again, you're driven from a sales tax standpoint. So if it's okay with you, let me kind of think on that before I throw an answer out there and kind of share with my team, because I want to make sure I get that right. But it's different depending on the community. To be completely honest with you, look at somebody like Roanoke, and they're built on local businesses, but now they're starting to get some national retail and national restaurants around there. So let me get back to you on that question, if that's okay.
Okay, and Roanoke's doing well. They're thriving with their mom and pop businesses.
They are, yeah, they're thriving, and now they've got regional and national restaurants and retailers coming in too.
Okay, excellent. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Other questions? No. Aaron, thank you.
All right, we appreciate the opportunity. Thank
Great
you all.
info.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Gabe.
I might mention one thing. I've talked with Aaron, and we'll likely bring a contract forward to you in the future to work with Aaron's group on some targeted retail recruitment in the future, because as he mentioned, I think we've got a kind of an opportune window of when we can get some retail things before they head north or go to other areas in our trade area. So that'll be coming soon.
Great. Look forward to it. Thank you.
But on that comment,
Go ahead.
and to Cindy's point, this information is important for small business owners to secure small loans.
Absolutely.
So not just recruiting national brands and getting their attention. This information is vital to their small business plans.
Absolutely.
So if we can make this information available to local folks who might want to open up a clothing store, who might want to open up a mom and pop restaurant, we need to make this information available to them to develop their business plans.
Absolutely, that's a great point. I mean, this data is absolutely, we see it on a daily basis used by local businesses, small businesses, and those sort of things. So to that point, we'd be happy to come in and I don't know if it would be through the chamber or something like that, if there's an opportunity.
Be through your recruitment efforts.
That too, or even local businesses that are already here, existing businesses, kind of schooling them on what some of the opportunities are. We're willing to come in and help with that also.
We're doing this once a quarter. We'd have the business summit, or it'd be an opportunity for you to then present that material and make it available to
Yeah,
them.
that'd be great.
All right.
Definitely.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Aaron.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys. All right, moving forward. Item number 9 at 6:32, we're in public hearing. Consideration and action regarding a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission to amend zoning ordinance 2001-04, section 5.1, amending the snow cone stands seasonal section. For that, Rick Trice.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You know, sometimes it's staff's pleasure to bring matters before the council that are of earth-shattering importance to the city of Saginaw. This is maybe one of those items. What this essentially does, a couple of things. It allows snow cone stand seasonal use to be permitted in a light industrial and heavy industrial. That reflects kind of what we do with food trucks. The second thing it does, extends their season by 1 month. Will start from April till October rather than March till October. So I think I said that right. Yeah. So unless you have questions of staff, I would recommend that you uphold the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation, unanimous recommendation to approve the item, to approve the ordinance.
Council questions? If not, do we have anyone want comments? Any questions, comments? This is a public hearing, so anyone's allowed to speak. Anyone? Anyone? If not, then at 6:33, I'll take us out of a public hearing and I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance 2020-02 as recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission.
Charles, second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, there is none. Thank you, Rick. Item number 10 at 6:34, we're in a public hearing. Consideration and action regarding a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding the amend the zoning ordinance 2002-04, amending the regulations for mobile food unit park. For that, Director of Public Works, Rick Trice.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just a bit of housekeeping. In August of 2018, you approved an amendment that allowed farmers market use in community facilities. Apparently, our use table doesn't allow a food truck park, which we're building as we speak, so we'd like to add that to the use table. Again, Planning and Zoning Commission met last week and recommended unanimously that you adopt the ordinance.
Any questions, council? Questions? Questions? Again, it's a public hearing. If anyone in the audience would like to speak on the item, now's your chance. You tell me how much you love food trucks. If
Ready?
not, at 6:35, I'll take us out of the public hearing, and I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance 2020-03 as recommended by Planning and Zoning.
I second.
Dollar second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, there is none. Thank you. Thank you, Rick. Moving forward, item number 11, consideration and action regarding a request for a specific use permit to allow daycare facility on the Lot 30, Block 2, 912 North, Old Decatur. For that, Rick Trice.
Yes, sir, Mayor. On the, in December 3rd of last year, you conducted a public hearing that allowed an SUP for daycare facility at the mentioned property. You referred that back to the developer because of traffic concerns and requested that a traffic impact analysis be prepared. That's been done and had found out that essentially there was a minimal impact on that intersection other than some on Bowes that they're trying to mitigate. And the traffic intersection will operate at a level of service C or better, which is well within city standards. So Clay Christie is here to maybe present the request and answer any questions that you might have.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Good to see you guys again. Clay Christie, Claymore Engineering, 1903 Central Drive, Bedford, Texas. As when we were up here with you guys back in December, we had presented you guys the proposed learning experience that we have with you guys. There were some concerns in regards to the traffic, because originally, whenever we had submitted to the city, we didn't necessarily meet the thresholds for a traffic study. And so we talked about it. You guys were concerned, so we went back, got our traffic engineers, hired a traffic engineer, worked with Dana's group at Kinley Horn and Jeff Whitaker and those folks. Since then, we have gone through and determined the analysis. As we kind of talked about last time, the expectations were still there. We still have, in the grand scheme, a fairly low amount of traffic considered for the use. There are some higher level of traffics on the existing roadways, but our impacts to that are very minimal. The one thing that it did impact, which we already were aware of and that we already presented to you guys, was the one bypass kind of turn lane that we have, so that if somebody's making a left turn into the site, that we're going to work through, and we have the bypass lane to prevent queuing from backing up or, stopping traffic in the middle of the road. And through that study and what we presented to Kinley Horn and city staff as well, that was determined that was the improvement that was required for the project. Happy to go back into details if we need to talk more about the rest of the project, but we're really here to answer any questions.
Council, questions? Mr. Farr?
Just have a clarification. When we were talking last, my notes, we were speculating this would be about a 70 to 90 peak hour trip generation, but it looks like the report's saying that it's below 60, 58 to 52, which is pretty consistent with what you were saying. We just needed to see the proof in the pudding. So
It was off the cuff.
Yeah.
I was hoping I was overshooting it,
that-
understanding.
hey, I really
and then was
appreciate
on
you doing
on
it.
top of
This is belt and suspenders for me, and that's the only question that I had. Appreciate it, Clay. Thank you.
No problem.
Somebody else have a question? Yeah, so refresh my memory just to make sure we're all clear, because it's not on the screen. So there's egress from Bowes and egress from the Old Decatur as well. So there's two entrance exit both places, right?
Yes, sir.
And I was looking on my map as I'm talking, but
And it's hard to say, but we do have it here. So we have right on Bowes right here, we have the bypass lane that's going to be on the southern side so that eastbound traffic can divert around if somebody does get stuck making a left turn. And then we have right in, right out access on Old Decatur, given the existing median that's there. Yes, sir.
and that was my other question, was about the bypass,
Yes, sir.
the shoulder. Who's paying for that?
We are.
That's what I was hoping.
You're looking at
That's
it.
a good answer. I wanted to make sure.
So it's a requirement that's developed, that's required by our development. So it's something that our development is triggering and requiring. So that is an expectation that we're working with that we'll construct that.
Excellent. Thank you.
One other question.
Sure, Patrick.
We have some alignment plans on that intersection sometime in the future, don't we?
We do not, but that's going to be a topic of my presentation.
Tonight?
Yes.
Okay. And what I'll defer, in fact, let me just defer that conversation to that presentation. Thanks, Clay.
Just one little tidbit on that, whatever. We're going to work with Dana and the city and everything else when we do that bypass lane. If there's anything that we can do that kind of helps that for the future, I'll make sure and work with them so that it makes sense. So.
Well, my point will be, it would be nice to use your funds for a permanent solution. This is using your funds for more or less a Band-Aid. And just kind of thinking through what we could do for that. Okay? Thanks.
Any other questions?
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just for my own clarification, it's been a while since I've been down that part of Old Decatur. Is there a median where the westbound exit is onto Old Decatur?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any plans to make that a turn lane so you could turn into there without having to make a U-turn at W.J. Bowes?
We won't meet the driveway spacings for that with what it is, and with Old Decatur being fairly newly developed right there. So the anticipation for our site or expectation is that we would be restricted on that access. That if there was a way that we could get a left turn lane in there, we would propose that as well. We would propose that and everything else. But given the separation from the intersection and the existing light, we wouldn't meet the spacing stuff for that.
Okay, and same thing, if they wanted to go southbound on Old Decatur, they'd have to go up north and then make a U-turn and come back down.
Yes, ma'am, or exit on the south side onto Boaz and then go through the light. And
Yeah, I
make
can
that
imagine there's going to be a pretty long line trying to get
Sure.
out westbound on W.J. Bowes.
So the PM, yes, ma'am. On the PM is, I think, the peak stacking on that, if I remember correctly, from the traffic study on that westbound traffic.
And what is that range of time for your peak times? Is that an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours? What is that time frame?
Sorry, my computer. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know the exact peak hour. The peak hour typically is going to be in that range of 5 to 6 o'clock. Somewhere in that range is whenever your peak hour is going to hit in the evening. So for our daycare, it actually spreads out. I mean, most of the people are going to deliver their children between 7 and 8 o'clock. It's usually between 7 and 7:30 is like the peak because they typically have about a 30-minute drive to work. And so that's typically on an operation standpoint whenever they have that. But the peak in the mornings are a little bit different than in the afternoons. Your biggest peak for the daycare is typically at the afternoon because certain people go in they might go in at 7:30, they might go in at 8, you know what I mean, or 8:30. And if they don't work full time, then typically still that 5 to 6 is a typical range, which
You don't know anything about that.
you probably know about that.
Well,
So-
and they have to pick up because you close at 6, is that the plan? Right, so they have to pick up by 6. That's the hard stop.
Yeah.
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 Now,
You're
granted,
having that
if there is
conversation
a
right
child
now,
there, they
aren't
won't
you?
close the doors and kick them out. But,
Sure, no, I understand. But
Yeah, they don't close the doors. They don't kick
they're
them out.
they're encouraged to pick them up by 6.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes.
Yes.
All right, council, any other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Great information. I will entertain a motion on this.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the special use permit as presented.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Excellent. Thank you, folks. All right, at 6:43, we will recess into workshop. Item number 13, midterm capital improvement project planning. Director of Public Works, Rick Trice.
I believe I'm going to let the city manager kind of preface this presentation, and we'll get into
Yeah, Mayor and Council, so we've spent a fair amount of time and effort discussing what we would categorize as potential bond projects. There's a number of projects that Rick will review that would be a little shorter term in nature that the council may consider pursuing now or later this summer. Many of them are related to potential bond projects, as well as, everybody's well aware of our new playground. It's been a big hit. People want more, and by people I mean the 4 little people in my house, so bring on more playgrounds and splash pads. Let's do it. But with that, I'll turn it over to Rick.
Thank you. Purpose really for tonight is, as Gabe says, just provide an overview of potential side projects that we could fund in an interim basis between now and the actual call for the election or the election itself. And so I'm going to share those projects with you, and then after that's done, I would like to have a discussion among council and staff, just the feasibility of going forward with that and what the next steps might be, and then finally for you to give staff specific direction on how to proceed. So I'm going to jump right into projects. One of the things that makes sense that we've talked about before, Councilmember Farr has mentioned it in the past, is that you could do pre-design on some of these projects. The fire station, Central Fire Station and Knowles have been two projects that have identified as being very important. They're probably going to make the bond list for sure. And it would be advantageous to have that design on the shelf and ready to go into construction or closer to being into construction if we could get advanced funding. So you can see the cost associated with that, professional services fees, which basically delivers a design project ready to go to construction. $2.5 million and the 1.2. I need to get my glasses adjusted, I think. But
So for Knowles, the 2.5 would be 10% of the total cost?
let me tell you what this is. The 220, the way the bond recommendations have been discussed so far, the phases started at McElroy and went north. This particular fee will complete all phases, so we'll go from Longhorn all the way to the north terminus, and also includes the signal at Knowles and Bailey Boswell. So we've got some more detail on that that I can share with you if we decide that we want to go forward with some portion or all of that package.
I see. Okay.
You'd like for us to wait for your presentation before you can
I
talk
think
to me?
that'd probably be best, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
North Old Decatur, we've got some funds, about $1.2 million in escrow already toward that project. We're just completing up with Gary Habner's development, probably the last frontage along that roadway, so that'll be our last opportunity to provide developer funds for participation. That's estimated at about $1.8 million, so we've got about a $600,000 funding gap. So again, that would be a logical project. We've had some complaints about sidewalk access along that roadway, and of course the square going in. This will improve circulation for that project also.
What linear feet is this?
I don't know off the top of my head, probably you have it in front of you.
2,500?
1,400.
That sounds
Thank you.
One of the other projects been talked about are citywide quiet zones. You recall before I came to Saginaw, there was a study done by RailPro, I think, that did feasibility report. That project's been dated, is dated, so we would recommend if we go forward with that project that we update that. We have a proposal from them now for up $10,000. Construction engineering that was taken right out of that old report, so again, that's dated information, would complete the remaining quiet zones in Saginaw at a construction cost of about $1.7 million. And you can see the listing of the quiet zone crossings there at the top of the slide. We just got through talking about this one. This is interesting because this is a morning shot, and the lower left slide shows the queue going eastbound, which is the route that I normally take into work, and that's usually about a mile long in the morning, so at the peak. So that's improvement of that intersection would do a lot in terms of providing capacity east-west through the city at that intersection. Fort Worth is developing a Dollar General, of course, on the southwest corner. They're going to put in a free right turn lane as part of their development. There is a challenge with this intersection, is if you go out and look at it today, the center lines are offset 40 or 50 feet, so it's going to be a little different and a little challenged in terms of trying to get the geometry to work there. But we're asking Kimley Horn to, and also based on what the conversation is tonight, to go forward with some geometry, at least on that intersection, so we know what we're faced with.
Are we thinking a roundabout?
No, not at that intersection.
No. All right.
Say, Rick, one question here. Has anybody considered the intersection, the east side of W.J. Bowes doesn't have a turn lane? Everybody else does.
Well, that's what we're talking
That
about.
backs that up.
That's what we're talking about with this.
Yeah.
You're talking on the east side, you're talking about?
Yeah, the
west-
east side
the
of
westbound.
Bowes,
The westbound, yes.
eastbound of Bowes doesn't have a turn lane.
That's correct. And that would be this project, is to set that geometry, and then if we had funds also allocated through this financing, certificates of obligation or whatever mechanism that we might use, this would be a good candidate for that, to provide those turn lanes and that geometry.
We would be able to influence Fort Worth to put that in if we pay for it, or?
They're responsible for their side of the roadway, and we're responsible for ours. We tried to work with them to help that geometry when they put in this right turn lane that's going in with Dollar General, but there was really not a lot of traction there. So.
Fort Worth side of that intersection has a turn lane. You have a straight and a turn lane.
A left turn lane, but it's a left or straight. So
Yes.
Yes. There's a left turn lane designated, and then a right turn and a straight option.
Yeah.
But they're going to place an additional right turn lane, so that will free up that.
So they're going to put 3
Through
lanes over there then.
Essentially, going east, yes. Going east, yes. Still have the look on your face like maybe we didn't answer your question. I will move on and we can back up to it. One of the other things on this exhibit is one that we're currently looking at as a sidewalk project that's basically serving McElroy and the neighborhood back to the south here, and we're applying for a CDBG grant to put that sidewalk loop in there. There's no sidewalk or access to the school, to the elementary school, to daycare, to churches, et cetera, in that neighborhood. So good use of funds. And of course, just the last council meeting, you approved an IPO with Kimley Horn that approved the next phase of ADA assessment, which is city sidewalks. So really the sky's the limit in terms of just funds. If you wanted to throw $2 or $3 million, you probably wouldn't touch probably what the problem is out there with replacing sidewalks and upgrading to an ADA standard. So some placeholder amount of money just to apply towards sidewalks is something to think about.
Well, and also the sidewalks, there's a couple of areas that the school had identified as well, which is...
We would work, what we would propose, if this would be a candidate, we would propose to work with the school district to identify past, gaps in access for pedestrian traffic. This one was a logical one because it falls within the census area for CDBG.
That's great. Yeah.
And it's a needed project.
Rick?
This particular project's about, just to give you an order of magnitude of what kind of project we're talking about, this is about $460,000 ultimately. And the CDBG grant we're planning to phase over 3 years or 3 programs.
Oh, okay.
I have a question kind of related to this. I've heard several people from Park West. Woodcrest, is that the road that comes out of Park West and runs into McElroy?
Right there by the Dominion?
Yes. I had several people comment that they see a lot of moms with strollers, kids on bicycles, trying to cross McElroy because there's not a sidewalk on the south side of McElroy that goes to the park. So they like to cross McElroy to get to that sidewalk. They're not asking a sidewalk be put in, but they're asking about just a painted crosswalk or a slow down sign. I mean, is that going to be
We can look at it,
expensive?
but we have 2 developments going in along McElroy, and so as part of their development plan, we'll be able to extend those sidewalks on the north side of the road.
But
So
on the
they
south
won't-
side of
So they won't
McElroy.
have to cross McElroy from that subdivision,
From the south side?
except
There's no sidewalks on the south side.
on the south side?
Yes.
At the south side of McElroy?
South side of McElroy, not
I
between
thought there was
Woodcrest.
there is a
Not between
sidewalk.
Woodcrest.
Between Woodcrest and Knowles. Is that where you're talking about?
Yes,
Knowles
Woodcrest and
Woodcrest?
and
Yeah,
Knowles.
there's not a sidewalk
Yeah.
there. They do walk through there all the time.
Oh, west of the.
So they're
Okay.
having
You know,
to cross
where the
McElroy to get to
floodplain
the north
thing
side
is.
where the sidewalks do travel between Woodcrest and Knowles.
Okay.
They're not asking for a sidewalk.
Yeah, we
They
can
just
look
thought a
at, we can
painted,
look at that, but it was just, yeah, that would be outside of the sidewalk scope, but we
yeah,
can look
but
at
it's
that
just,
as
you
a
know,
sidebar issue.
they were looking for a economical solution
Yeah.
rather than putting expensive sidewalks in.
One of the other ones, projects, was just near and dear to my heart are the railroad approaches at Minton and McElroy, which is like going over a moonscape. Those particular approaches are in horrible shape, need to be reconstructed, so putting a placeholder in there for that.
Don't try it in a Mini Cooper, I can tell you.
I drive the big Ford now, and it's rough in the big trucks. About $280,000 is kind of what, just an order of magnitude number for those reconstruction projects. One project that's been talked about for years, and has kind of had a discussion recently with the park board, and then I've heard other interest in our ponds down on Willow Creek Park. You know, two kinds of ponds. You can have an on-system pond, which is a cumbersome permitting process, water rights, Section 404 Clean Waters Act, all sorts of permitting and drawn-out process. These particular ponds are offset from the main tributary, so maybe less permitting burden. And so we're asking King and Horn to compile some of the things that they've done in the past in terms of looking at options there. And so if this is a potential project, that could be another enhancement to the park system. Don't have an estimate for that.
I have a fly rod ready to go.
Well, one thing is the off-system ponds are not really sustainable in terms of keeping water, so we'll have to supplement it with city water, and so we'll have an annual fish kill. We'll probably just go up there and pick up fish. But
You can just run your water hose back up there. It'll be all right.
I'm just kidding. Finally, the playground improvements. Dream Play is an outstanding project, and it's being loved to death. I mean, we've had some maintenance issues trying to fix some deficiencies, but there's 60 or 100 people. We've got lots of complaints about traffic in the area, in which we're working on parking lot expansion, so that's coming. But it kind of brings forward the question that the citizens are really hungry for improvements in the park system also. And so another option then would be to add some playground item that's off the park board's recommendation for improvements, which I owe you a presentation of what that is, the $4 million and $12 million option that you kick back to the park board. What you see there is a splash pad, just an example. Those have been estimated in the bond program at $750,000. And a playground would run from $230,000 to $600,000. Project Dream Play final cost was about $553,000. So just to give you an order of magnitude there. This is kind of maybe an opportunity for your input, but I'm going to go ahead and throw out some others for consideration that I didn't list. And one of those is lighting along Saginaw Boulevard, basically north of Minton, kind of dark. There's not a lot of lighting there. So pedestrian crosswalks, not only painted crosswalks, but also signalized crosswalks at some key intersections close to our schools. We have had discussions with TxDOT shortly after I got on board with about upgrading signals along the boulevard and having more of a newer technology that can be monitored not only by the state but by the city so that they can override cues and problems in the lighting system. We met with them in July of 18, and at that time those signals were about $350,000 a piece, and we have 8 intersections, so $2.8 million. But that's not to say that that's 100% city cost. That's just, again, an order of magnitude. So there would be some participation between the state and city on those, but something to explore. I mean,
So that's a possibility to get some state funding on those?
we can visit with Billy Manning and the traffic guys at the TxDOT again and see kind of how we would bring that project forward. I mean, if we had money to apply to advance fund that, then that makes it more feasible from the TxDOT standpoint.
And would we want to do all of them, or could you do one at a time? What's the best
You
impact?
could do, apparently McElroy at Saginaw Boulevard is the biggest culprit, but I mean, I think, of course, we just really kind of worked on Bailey Boswell, and we have a new one going in, of course, with the square coming up. So I don't know if there's a logical sense. I think probably we'd want to lean on, Kimley Horn's opinions and also that of TxDOT, where there continued failures, they have that information.
You might get a deal if you do it.
Intuitively, we know what it is, but they'll have the data. So that concludes the overview of potential projects. And again, I didn't give you an opportunity to chime in with any additional projects that you could think of, but I mean, these are ones that came to mind fairly quickly. So just to kind of conclude and move forward, then I guess we're just looking for council to first of all to say, are you interested in us finding a funding mechanism, what that might be, and do you want us to go ahead and move forward with at least feasibility of some of these projects, all or partial, or which ones? Yes, we'll stand back and listen for your input.
Council? Mary?
I think all of them are very important, and it's really hard to rank them, some of them, but I made an attempt to do so. And then the ones that you mentioned right at the end are very important too. So I don't know if any of the other council members tried to rank them, and if we want to try to pick the top certain number or whatever. But so just to start the conversation, I will say how I ranked them. And I put number 1, the fire station and Knowles. Number 2, park and playground improvements. Number 3, sidewalks. Then the railroad approaches, number 4. Mostly on McElroy. I don't know how many people use Minton. I don't ever, but maybe other people do. Then the Old Decatur Road, Bowes intersection, Bowes. And then the North Old Decatur Road reconstruction, and then the ponds at Willow Creek, and then the one on here that I would not ever want to happen would be the quiet zones.
Cindy?
I didn't rank them. I think they're all important. I think there are several other places in Saginaw where we need to look at sidewalk repairs. My neighbors are in wheelchairs, electric chairs, and they said it was like falling off a cliff, driving on some of the sidewalks on Opal. There's a good 2 or 3 inch drop in some of those sections, and those are not identified on your map. And that was on Opal Street and Blue Ridge. And I think we need to kind of take a little closer look at some of our sidewalks.
Yeah, this wasn't intended to look at refurbishing existing sidewalks, but just fill in gaps. So that was the purpose for this project.
Right.
We're looking at technology. In fact, we have a vendor that's coming in Thursday to talk to us about a cheaper way to repair sidewalks and to elevate and make those grades match, which is supposed to be more economical. Again, that's a big number too, because in some areas, especially in some neighborhoods, trees, particularly trees in the parkway, can impact our sidewalks, and then you get into, private rights versus, we want to take out somebody's 100-year-old oak tree to save our sidewalk, or if we want to maybe get an easement and go around on private property. So there are some challenges there too.
I also know that some of these sidewalks are mismatched now, for lack of a better term, because of repairs that had been made to water or sewer systems, lines. The dirt had been dug up, put back in, rain came. It looked beautiful until the rain, and then the sidewalk sunk.
Well, and I think, again, I think when the ADA assessment is complete for sidewalks, you'll get the full breadth of the issue, the magnitude of the issue. And
But I know-
we only program 25,000 or so a year
I
in the budget
understand.
for sidewalk replacement, so it's less than a Band-Aid. So,
I just know that my neighbors like to get out and move around, and they just find the sidewalks difficult to maneuver. So I'm throwing that in under other, but I agree with the projects that you have listed here.
I forgot one
Sure.
question.
Go ahead.
Since I've lived here for about 14 years, I think I am correct that the approach on McElroy to the railroads has been fixed 2 or 3 times. Now, would this be a real fix that would last, or is it another pretend fix?
we have a large industrial base in Saginaw with heavy truck traffic, so whatever we put in there at some point is going to have to be refurbished, replaced, reconstructed. But in fact, we had a temporary fix on McElroy where we actually used a urethane expanding process to basically push the slab up to grade so it matches, so you didn't have that rough, drop off. But that was just a temporary fix.
So if it were done to the best of our ability, how long would one expect that to last?
You should get 30 years out of a
Oh,
roadway.
really? Okay.
Or more.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Because the other ones have been
there are concrete
2 or
streets
3
in Fort
years.
Worth that have been in there for 70, 80 years, but
Yeah. Okay.
Sylvania is one. So.
Mr. Tucker?
I'm in full agreement with Mary on the quiet zones. Personally, I think that's a mistake. As far as
Why do you say that? I'm just curious.
why do I say that's a mistake? For one, how long has the railroad been here, and how long has this crossing been across there? The railroad been there 150 years. It used to be federal law that you had to blow the horn at every crossing. Now we're trying to get away from that because people are moving into the areas and they don't want to hear the train whistle. Okay, but I still say it's a mistake because for safety, if nothing else.
But aren't those reinforced and everything built a little better to do that?
Yeah, but it's designed,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, it's designed to build, I mean, the railroad supports the quiet zones.
Yeah.
We've talked to them.
That's why I'm confused. I don't know why everybody's against it.
Right.
I'm just saying it's a safety issue to me. And as far as the traffic signals up and down the boulevard, they need a lot of work. There's a lot of inconsistencies with almost every signal. So that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, John. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, most of mine are travel related. I think Knowles needs to be fixed. I think we need to move traffic around better. Old Decatur needs to be fixed. The traffic lights on the boulevard are a definite yes. Why could we not put a roundabout at Old Decatur and Bose? I'm just asking because it seems like they move so much traffic and I've seen them work, so I don't know, is that just not an option at all?
I don't know that we've ever looked at any geometry there, but
Since the Old Decatur's built out for a signal, it would just be very costly to put a roundabout there now.
But would it move traffic better or no?
No, I think there's going to be a lot of improvement by getting that left turn in on the
Right.
Road. It'll help tremendously. And I think there's also some detection issues with the signal that we actually looked at this past week that we can do to help improve the traffic flow there.
Right.
So I think, yes, it's right now that queuing is pretty significant, but I think between fine-tuning the signal and then getting a lot of people that are playing in there, can improve it. So
And
we
if we-
can look at something like, we can look at preliminary that, but
Right.
roundabout there would be $2.5 million, $3 million.
I know, but over the long run, would it not be better? Because, TxDOT does not come right out and fix our lights when we need them. We know this is a fact. So, yeah. Anyway, that was just my thought. Because my thinking is that we need to get traffic moved around Saginaw. We're getting so much traffic now. And if we're going to build up north, we're going to have more traffic that's going that way. And so we need to get them moved. We need to get our roads and stuff fixed first. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. And then after that, I put the sidewalks, the parks, and the fire station.
Mr. Farr?
Yeah, I think we're about to enter into, we've been in the longest upswing in the marketplace in history. So we're about to, I'm afraid, look at a downswing in the marketplace. Good thing about that is it's a good time to spend public money. But if we're not shovel ready in the marketplace, we're not going to be able to take advantage of it. So any certificate of obligation that we consider or some funding mechanism towards any of these projects, I would strongly consider and recommend to this council that we at least get design underway. We get design underway on fire station. We get design underway on all of our road projects that we have prioritized here, all of them. That we meet immediately with the school district to triage needs on sidewalks and get those under design as well. Doing those kinds of things and taking these steps to at least get projects shovel ready so that when the market does turn down, we can hit the marketplace with them and get the best possible price from the marketplace. I think that's a prudent way to spend our money. I think selecting some of these projects and financing them in what we would call a peak market, I don't know that that's the best thing to do with public money, but some of them may rise to the level of emergency. I don't know that any of these really rise to the level of emergency. Inconvenience, yes, but I don't feel that any of them rise to the level of emergency. That's the only reason that I would want to spend taxpayer money without their permission and just go forward with a project if we have an emergency. Those are my thoughts.
Mr. Beasley?
Yes, I'm in agreement with Mary. The fire station and the Knowles project, the parks. I have North Old Decatur and the sidewalks, and then Old Decatur and W.J. Boas as my top 5.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'm ready today to spend money to design Knowles. I mean, tomorrow. It couldn't come fast enough. Get that design ready to go. I think I view that as our biggest need just because I know what it's a big roadway and it floods and it's pretty bad. That would be 1 for me. Fire station would probably be 2, get to that design. And then I think North Old Decatur would be 3 just with the traffic and the square coming up and the safety concerns. Those are the big ones. I would push anything on the parks down to the bond. I wouldn't do a thing on parks unless we just have extra money lying around until we do a bond on the parks. As far as sidewalks, I would love to see what we can do with CDBG money. I think that's a great way to look at any sidewalks that we can. I know we can't do all of them. And the others, I would prioritize or triage based on the safety and like the school as well on those. Bose and Old Decatur would probably be next for me. And of course, I'm a big quiet zones guy. But I think we could pick those off one by one. I don't know if we have to do them all at one time. I would again triage those and do those where time and what makes sense. So that'd be my list. So what are we thinking? Mary, go ahead.
You reminded me of something, and Patrick did too. When I was ranking these, I was just putting out of my mind a bond issue. I was just using this as a standalone if we weren't going to do a bond election. So, some of these might end up on a bond election, and that would change things. And I do keep harping on this, but sorry. I'm very much in favor of, building a new fire station. And I did want to bring this up. I don't know if I have made this point before, but when Patrick was talking about certificates of obligation only for emergencies, well, if we put, and I'm very much in favor of doing the design and all that right now, but if we put the fire station on the bond election and it fails, these things are hard to predict, then we would have to wait 3 years before we could issue certificates of obligation for that project. And the way I look at it is it's so necessary. And we have so few people who vote that I would hate to allow a very small percentage of our people to make that decision when I consider it a necessity. And then we would have to wait 3 more years if it didn't pass. And then we would have to agree to do the certificates of obligation. So that's just something we should keep in mind when we actually do make the list for the bond election items.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Just to note on the mechanics, so once the council comes to agreement with the projects and really the amount, the funding is relatively simple. So I spoke with Andrew Friedman. What we would do is bring an intent to reimburse to the council to take action. There would be some limit. Let's say that number is $5 million. Once we get our certified tax roll in the summer, we would start design on one or all of these projects with cash and then pay it back with either a tax note or a certificate of obligation or some sort of funding mechanism. So that requires just an action of the council. Can be done at any time. And it's, once we have the amount, that's what will drive the rest. So it's relatively easy to bring forward.
So we would wait till so we get that information in the summer?
Well, so we would, let's say, and I'm just throwing this out, let's say the number's $5 million. We would start design on these projects with cash. The reality is several of these projects we're not going to incur expenditure probably till the summer, till Kimley Horn gets, substantially, does some work on Knowles, that sort of thing. We would then pay ourselves back that cash that we spent with either tax note proceeds or certificate of obligation, some sort of, borrowed money. So spend cash now to be reimbursed later.
I see. Okay. So we could move pretty quickly.
What we could, and, I also talked with Andrew. We're in a very, for some unknown amount of time. I mean, our tax note, if you recall, $2 million at 1.7% interest.
Cheap money.
And it's a hedge against construction inflation too. I mean, we might as well do as much as the council has appetite to now, because a year from now, that cost is cost plus 5%, 8%, whatever construction inflation is. So,
how quickly can we make some of these design activities happen? What's the timing on? Say we design, let's say Knowles. How quickly would that design work get done? Weeks, months, years?
So the intent, and I've spoke with Kimley Horn, the intent with the design on 2 projects that would likely be bond election is that they would be substantially complete. So pending voter approval, we could go and enter construction phase pretty quickly. I think since there's been some conceptual design on Knowles, they've already kind of got a jump start on that. So months.
So any project would be months, but probably that's a good estimate. Okay.
The only possible delay after that would be if there's utility conflicts, and I'm not aware of. I think it's fairly clear along that corridor, but.
Well, I think we're going to do phase 1 of Knowles first. Was that the goal? We're not going to do
Well,
All 3 design.
Yeah, design it.
Well, we could phase construction, is what she's saying, based on.
But design work would not be held up by any utility. It would just be the design.
one gas line crossing on that may be a little bit of
I'm just concerned about talking about design right now. So, yeah, gotcha. All right, so I think I've got consensus on Knowles. Anybody have an issue with us starting design as fast as we can on Knowles? Everybody good with that one? Okay. Fire station. Anybody have an issue with us starting design only on a fire station? Sooner than later. Anybody? Everybody okay with that? That's
Okay with that?
however much money that is.
1.2.
I think 1.2, yeah, it's a good bit of money. All right, number 3, would it be North Old Decatur? Would that be the next one we'd want to start, or is there another one that we'd rather? Anybody? What's your appetite?
Old Decatur, but that's.
What do y'all think? Go ahead, Cindy.
Personally, I think the sidewalks, because I live over by Saginaw Elementary, and I see these kids walking and riding bicycles on Opal Drive or Opal Street, and people drive crazy up and down that road.
Would that be new sidewalks or repair you're talking?
New.
Those are new. There's no sidewalk there? It's,
Between Green and McElroy, there's no sidewalks.
okay. Okay.
I kind of agree.
Kind of?
I mean, it's so hard. They're so important. They're all
I
important.
understand.
But I do,
So can you pull out
I
that
do
certain
think
section?
sidewalks are important.
Can you pull out like that certain section, the most needed parts right
Well, I
there?
think I mentioned earlier, I think you just need to assign a number to it
Okay.
because the number is very large
See,
citywide.
You know, the map you showed earlier for sidewalks was just the ones potentially CDBG. So that's not
That
the
would be
full.
just that loop, and
Right.
that would be over 6 years.
And there's only a small section of the city that is eligible for CDBG grants, so some of these things we're talking about are not in that.
Right.
We'd have to pay for them ourselves.
And can the
Right.
school district pitch in for part of that as well? Since it's
We haven't
their
asked the-
school?
I don't think we've asked the school district, but
Hey, they can't tell you no if you don't ask.
that's right.
So maybe we should do that.
What does anybody else think about sidewalks or Old Decatur?
So on the sidewalk issue, I mean, I think Old Decatur will be important once the square is online. That's going to create a very treacherous stretch of roadway. So, I mean, that, just, we all need to remember that we've committed a couple of $1 million towards this project, and we can't see it open and then create a treacherous situation. Now, on the sidewalks, I don't see any reason why we can't go through a process, meeting with the school district, identifying critical needs for every school that's in our city, creating a program to address those sidewalks specifically, and then initiating design for that. That would be, in my mind, the first layer of sidewalks being addressed. The next layer would then be the ADA sidewalks coming from this next phase that Kimley Horn is working on. We could study that. But I think in this first round, we owe it to our kiddos, make sure they get to school safe. So I think doing that exercise with the school district and determining, I mean, we can pick a foot radius around the schools, maybe 300 feet, bordering the school, whatever needs to be addressed within that 300 feet, just what I'm thinking out loud, not really wanting to set programmatic parameters. I just would like to work that out with the school district, reach an agreement, and initiate design at that level.
Right, that was, at least our thoughts would be to have a rating matrix, just kind of, elementary schools obviously would be the highest priority, followed by middle schools, and then just socioeconomic,
It makes
areas.
perfect sense.
So,
That's good. But that's, I would put Old Decatur higher than sidewalks just because we are creating that situation. We are creating a treacherous situation.
Fair enough. Mr. Beasley, what do you think?
I like what you got.
Which is?
The Knowles.
Between Old Decatur and sidewalks, which one would you
Oh,
prioritize?
Old Decatur, that's how.
Old Decatur, okay. Valerie, what'd you say?
Old Decatur.
Old Decatur. Mr. Tucker, I forget what you said. Okay, so then, looks like Old Decatur next, followed by sidewalks, priority-wise. That's 1, 2, 3, that's 4 projects, that's a good bit of money. My backyard math takes that to 3, 4, maybe not quite 5, but I don't know what sidewalks would be, but it's a big number, so close to 5. Is there any other project below that would prioritize, want to prioritize and put on the list?
Tech spotlights.
I'd suggest the Bose alignment.
Okay.
I know that that's more of a long range, but since we do have a developer that's contributing, it might make sense to use some synergy there
Okay.
and help offset some cost, both in design and potentially construction.
We don't have a dollar figure for that yet, do we?
no, we don't.
Okay, I didn't think
They
so.
are working, Kimley Horn's looking at
Okay.
the geometry now for a proposal.
Excellent. So what does anybody else think about a next? We've got Knowles Fire Station, North Old Decatur, and sidewalks. That's our top 4. What about a 5th? Anybody else?
Parks,
Parks for Mary? Okay. Cindy, what would your 5th be?
railroad approaches.
Oh, the 2 approaches? Okay. That's there. Mr. Tucker? The 287 traffic lights? Okay. Valerie, yours?
At least one traffic light.
Traffic lights?
McElroy.
Yours is traffic
Settle
lights?
for one.
Mr. Farr, yours is
I'm still stuck with Bose.
Bose and Old Decatur, okay?
Bose alignment.
Well, I got that
Rose.
too.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mr.
Bose.
Bose for you. I think I would go Bose as well. And I mean, they're close. They're all important. It's hard. All right, so Bose is next.
Okay.
That's number 5. Okay? And obviously, number 6 would be 287 traffic lights.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And that sounds like a good list. That's a lot of money right there.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, but I think all of it should be put in design. We
Yeah.
need these projects shovel-ready. We really need them ready.
Go for it.
Everybody okay with that list? Good for that? That direction you need?
So I'm hearing then that we will go forward with contracts for full design of Knowles and the fire station,
Yep. Yes, sir.
and then we'll prepare proposals, and then I guess we will just entertain those as we complete that.
Yeah, let's see
that scope.
what the numbers come in on the others, but yeah, let's
Right.
look at those. So I gave you 5. Knowles, fire station, North Old Decatur, sidewalks, Bose, and traffic lights. So 6.
7,
That's 6, right?
6.
Yeah.
6.
So we got 6 to look at. So let's get numbers for all those and see where we fall. See what council wants to do. Is that good?
So I do, just one comment.
Sure.
With respect to our public works projects that are street-related, we have Kimley Horn essentially as they're our design engineer. So I would assume readily that they would be designing these projects for us.
Not the fire station,
Okay,
obviously.
but
It's
the fire
architectural
station,
work.
yeah, the fire station is unique. So what I would be interested in wanting to understand is what is the RFP or Q process to secure designer for the fire station?
It'd be professional services, just as if we were hiring an attorney or another engineer. So we're well versed in that, so we'll put together a process.
Okay.
If you'd like to see it or be involved with
So
that.
it is not a bid process, correct?
No, it's not.
It's not a
You
low
can't-
bid
You can't
process.
bid professional.
It's an it's a request for qualifications.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Rick, you get what you need?
Got it?
Excellent. Okay. Then at 7:26, reconvene back into regular session. I think that is it on the agenda, except item 15. We do have a couple things there. So at 7:26, we'll convene into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.087, which is economic development negotiations. So we will return to adjourn. Everybody please turn